anything. Anybody in?
Yes.
Folks, sorry for the delay. We had a little technical difficulty, but we're going to get started right now. Smithfield Town Council, June 14th, 2021. Madam Clerk, will you please lead us in the prayer and the pledge?
Lord, assist with thy Holy Spirit of counsel all those who are serving in positions of authority and responsibility. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves? Here. Mr. Carvo?
Here.
Mrs. O'Hara? Here. Mr. Vadnez?
Here.
Mr. Biragad?
Here. Continuation of public hearing proposed on 2021 to 2022 budget. This is a continuation of the public hearing that we began last week. So let's take a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we reopen the public hearing on the proposed 2021-2022 budget.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves? Yes. Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Vadnez?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes. Okay, so there's just a couple of quick ground rules I'd like to go over. Very easy. This is not open forum. This is just a public hearing on the budget. So we're going to ask that everybody please keep your comments to the budget issue only. If you have anything that you want to bring up during open forum, we have a regular council meeting next week, and you're welcome to come before the council at that time. People in the room will go first. Because this is Zoom and there's really no way to get you get a list together of people that want to speak, just please be patient with us. Everybody will have a chance to speak, but you're just going to have to hit the raise your hand function or move your arms around in front of the camera so we can see you. But everybody that wants to speak will get a chance to speak. I'm not putting a time limit on your speech, whatever it is that you want to say. However, if it does start to go a little long, I will ask you to wrap it up so we can get other people on that are behind you. So when you come up to speak, or if you're on Zoom and you speak, I just ask that you state your name and your address, and then you can begin. Okay, so let's begin. Anybody in the room that would like to, Mr. Lombardi?
There is a sign sheet.
This is not, you don't have fun. Ready, Mr. President? Ready?
Honorable Town Council members, Town Administrator, school committee members, and members of the public. I'd like to start off by talking about our original submission of the budget and then what has changed since, if that's okay. So we're going to refer to
I got to interrupt. Just if you could just state Chairman Lombardi.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So my name is James Lombardi. I live at 7 Indigo Farm Road in North Smithfield, and I'm chairman of the school board.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if you go to, I asked for a cheat sheet, which is this document that I forwarded to you, and just for the public, we will post these all on the website so that everybody can have access to it. Our original submission was $607,590,000. I'm sorry, excuse me. Our initial submission was requesting an increase of $607,590. The governor's budget added to that $16,156. We saved in medical $67,075, workers' comp $19,940, transportation increased by $21,400, Title I $51,824, and special education increased by about $200,000. We don't know that exact number yet. Therefore, bringing the amended increase to the budget at $809,955. And again, that's just a breakdown of this document right here. This is a status quo budget. There is no substantial additions. There's no new positions. And Superintendent, correct me if I'm wrong. No new real programs, at least in this budget. We've worked it out internally where we can repurpose some funds, and we would ask that we move to about a $400,000 additional funding, which is about 2%. I want to address some issues right off the bat, and then we do agree that the surplus from the pandemic is about $1 million. These are one-time savings, basically from not physically attending schools. These funds will not be available as a surplus in subsequent years. And I'm proud to say that we managed our resources conservatively and correctly. And if you go to the handout of the fiscal savings overview, which is this document, it outlines all of our savings. So many districts, I know that one, I'll just go talk about one right off the bat. We did stuff internally where other districts went externally. If you recall, and you were very supportive of us changing our HVAC system last year, we didn't have to go out and buy fans and different things. We already had the unit that was required. The other thing that I recall is many districts paid for busing even though the children weren't being bused. We took a very strong position and said, that's not something that we are going to pay. And it would have cost the district, I think that they were looking for between $50,000 and $75,000. That's something that we did not pay, but most other districts did. We managed everything responsibly and conservatively. So we're asking for approximately $400,000 additional from you. So why don't we use our surplus? So the surplus is a one-time savings. Let's assume it would be at 600,000 or 400,000, whatever number. We should not use a surplus to pay for general fund expenditures. In the subsequent year, when those funds are not available, it creates an instant deficit into the budget. And if we said, well, the budget's going to go down next year, maybe this is the solution. But we all know that the school department budget probably will not go down in the near future. So if we were to use our surplus funds to pay next year's budget, I would say the following year, we would be requiring to exceed the 4% cap. And that's just on a status quo budget. What are we going to do with the surplus? It's our position, with your cooperation, of course, to redo the windows in the high school. This is something that we've been requesting and doing a few at a time. I think that we can probably do most of them, Superintendent. So we can be done with that. We get a 40% rebate on that, and that's, I'm gonna say, a good expenditure. That's something that we need to do. We don't need to, we're not gonna need to come back to you next year and say, well, can we do 10 more windows? Can we do this? Can we do that? The other thing that that the surplus can be used for, and I'm gonna ask the school committee, obviously the town council and the town administrator to work together to use some of our surplus to pay for a new turf field, growing area, and as you know, with your contribution of the bathrooms and concessions being, we'll make this field a gem in Northern Rhode Island.
That's the track as well, right?
Yes. I believe, and I've been told by a number of people, that if we were to properly manage the track, and not that it's not properly managed today, but that when it's brand new, we would have opportunities, or better opportunities to have other teams there, rent the field out more. With a fully functioning field, we could have statewide events. They bring in a good deal of money. If we were to go out and bid that out, and gave somebody a percentage or whatever it is, obviously we would all have to agree on that, but what I would like to see is that in 12 years, some school committee will have the funds to redo it. So this should be an issue with, the field should be able to pay for itself. It should be able to, when repairs are needed or a complete change is needed, that the funds are sitting there. And again, whether the field itself, it's something that the town has committed to do at whatever level, at some level. But right now with the funds, I would ask that, that we go forward with this issue and use the surplus. So those are where that's where the surplus would be going. The other thing is that I know that the budget committee mentioned that they were going to give us $100,000 in capital funding. Although we'll take as much capital funding as you can give us with the 40% rebate, that's something maybe we can postpone a year. So let's just jump to the Ester Funds. So there was a report, and we won't dispute it, that we're going to be receiving about $2.4 million in Ester Funds from the federal government. Right now, there's 3 phases of that. As I think many of you know, these funds can only be used to supplement, not supplant funds. And I'll give you an example. We can't pay a math interventionist out of our budget, but we can use the Ester funds to pay for an additional math interventionist. So there should be no interaction with the general fund budget. The other thing is, I want to just make an analogy to the town. Just as the town cannot take the Ester funds and issue a tax break, we can't use it for our general fund. So there's prohibitions on how to use this money. And again, I just want to go back to making sure that I go through all of these. I know that previously you had the executive summary. We provided you with the Ester funds, how to spend them, and how we're able to save money this year. So in closing, we believe that we are submitting a budget that is fair and responsible. We're asking for a floor of $400,000 additional funding or 2%.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Lombardi? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. My My name is Jean Mayo. I live at 11 Tarleton Trail, and I'm a member of the school committee. First of all, I want to thank the budget committee, the town council, and the town administrator for the work that you have done or will have to do to reconcile this budget. It's not easy. Jim did a very good job explaining to you the realities of our budget, the limitations of the ESSER monies, and the reasons for our surplus and the ways in which we are using it to accomplish long overdue capital projects. As Jim said, we requested what we felt was a reasonable and fiscally responsible budget. The cuts that we will have to make based on the budget committee's recommendation, close to a 0% increase, will be devastating. I'm personally concerned that our hopes, our plans for a high school to workplace pathway, a vocational type teacher to not only teach but also mentor students in electrical, plumbing, and carpentry skills, practical skills, will be scrapped. We have ignored the needs of the students who are not college bound, who would benefit from learning career-focused skills in high school. We've neglected that for years. A program such as this would help to keep North Smithfield students in North Smithfield. The workforce of today is begging for skilled workers, and we need to make this opportunity happen now. But that's just one example of the outcome of a maintenance of effort budget. And I must point out that we are not looking to add a new position, but we would replace a retired teacher and her program with a new possibility. You all know that we have an excellent school system, well respected in the state and beyond, thanks to the efforts and the energies of everyone who works here. But as wonderful as it is, we are trying to create opportunities to make it even better. We have to do what is best for our students, for their education, their health and safety, and their ability to compete and exceed in an ever-changing world. And a maintenance of effort approach, as suggested by the Budget Committee, just does not allow for that to happen. Our students can't afford and don't deserve the drastic cuts that we would have to make. So I'm hoping that you, town council members, will help us to make a difference by funding the schools appropriately so that we can not only continue to maintain the excellent education that takes place here in Smithfield, but also to start to make some strides forward in the few areas that are lacking. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayo. Anybody else? Mrs. St. James, you good? Anybody have any questions? I just have a couple of quick questions before we move on. Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Mayo hit on it a little bit, but what are we doing for the students that are not going to college? But not college isn't for everybody. What are we doing to help them? I know that I gotta tell you, the schools are doing great. My daughter goes to school, she loves it, but she's college bound and she's doing great and she's taking great classes and the teachers are awesome. But what are we doing for the students that are not going to college, that have no interest in going to college? What are we doing for them?
Well, so one of our main focuses is Mrs. Mayo mentioned, the new high school to workforce pathway. And we have had this in the works for a while. We've been waiting for the right time and the right opportunity. And yes, we did have a retirement at the high school. And so through attrition, we used this opportunity to change the program. So we will be offering a series of courses in those practical skills and carpentry and plumbing and electrical. Because we do have quite a few students who would like to have a vocational group without necessarily going to a vocational program. They like North Smithfield, they have friends right here. The school is small, it's there's a lot of personalized attention that students get. So we can offer a piece of this. Now, it's not necessarily a CTE program at this stage that we can bring kids in, but it is a program that we can offer to our own students, so they don't have to go out to look for it. In addition, we've opened up different math programs in basic finance and accounting. You know, we're taking a lot of our programs, and it really doesn't matter if you're college bound or not college bound, they will have equal access and use for everyone.
Thank you. Just one other quick question, if I may. You kind of was starting to go in that direction. The schools are doing great, there's no question. Do you have a plan to do a little, to take it to another level? Do you have a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan?
We do, we're in the middle of I think we're in year 1 or 2 of a 5-year strategic plan. I have to admit, the COVID years kind of put things aside, it put a number of delays in the process. But yes, we do have a strategic plan that will take us out 5 years. It does need to be revamped. In fact, the Department of Education released a sweeping report and their own plan that they're applying to all the districts across the state, putting in measurable goals and benchmarks and things everybody needs to be doing. Now, one of the things why this is important is because the federal Ester funds that are coming down the pipe, or even state funds, will be attached to this REAP plan that they've been drawing a blank on what the acronym is. But it is very comprehensive, and it will, it's sort of the marching orders with the financial backing for the K-12 schools across the state. Now, we have our own spin on it. We will improve on it. We will take it to places where other districts may not be able to. Yes, it is exciting what's coming on.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question for Mr. St. Jean? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the room want to speak? Okay, let's move over to the Zoom call. CJ, do we have anybody that wants to be heard?
Tracy, not going to be here.
Tracy, are you out? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
No, I think you're on mute. Can you hear me?
No, I'm not on mute.
I can't hear her. Stand by.
They took it for a while. They were waiting for us and then they put it for COVID.
Can you still hear me, Mr. President?
Gentlemen, ladies, while we're doing this, over the last 3 years, some of my students have come back to me, and I always say, what are you doing? And I always think these students would be going on to college. Well, last year, some came to the house and said, Miss Ryan, I want to go to college. I don't want to go to a free school. I want an internship with a builder. I like working with my hands. I've done with my father. I've done plumbing with my uncle. That's what I want to do. My aim is to have my own business someday. And between you and I thought it was wonderful. But there's more and more children saying, oh, what everything is. And there was one that graduated from UMass Amherst, hated what he was doing, ended up going back with an uncle who's a stonemason. You have to wait 4 years just to get him.
Yeah.
So that's the way to go. Just think these two men, depending on what they take, come out and can't get jobs. These are doing side jobs before they even before they're even starting to use that job. We have to encourage it.
You try, see if you can try it one more time, and if we maybe move on to somebody else, maybe it might be her, it might be.
Can you hear me now?
Tracy?
Yes? Can you hear
Can you
me?
hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Mr. President?
David Igliozzi, can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Mr. President?
David
Tracy.
Igliozzi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I think that was.
Tracy, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Thomas, yes.
Okay, we can hear everybody now.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear.
Excellent. Thank you very much. My name is Tracy Lafreniere. I live at 26 Maple Avenue. I am a parent of 2 young boys, one who is finishing his kindergarten year this year and one who will be entering NSES in the following year. And I'm also a teacher. I'm finishing up my 23rd year as a reading specialist for North Smithfield schools. So I'm here to ask your consideration, obviously, to fully fund our school budget. And I mean, that's easy to do, right? I'm a teacher. I'm always going to advocate for funding. I'm always going to advocate for our students. But I'm really here because I want you to understand why we need your support and why we need that funding. As a taxpayer, I can completely understand the temptation to use or to see those COVID-related assistance funds as a supplement to the budget to offset the town's contribution, because that just seems to make sense, right? But that money was always intended to address the learning gaps that were created by COVID. And I've heard, the term, well, we want to get back to business as usual. And our schools have definitely gone back to business, but I'm going to just let you know that we are far from it being business as usual. And we probably won't get back to the as usual part for a while. So as a reading specialist, one of my, proudest achievements, or I guess not even my proudest, but the thing I am most proud of is being part of a team that has really been committed to getting our kids to learn how to read before grade 3. So, and there's a reason why that's so important. If our kids don't learn how to read before 3rd grade, statistically, they never catch up to their peers. They're more likely to live in poverty. They're more likely to drop out, and they're even more likely to become incarcerated. So for years now, decades really, our school system has been so committed to that early intervention. We have a team of teachers, and we intervene early and often with intensity and frequency. And that's what we need to get those kids to learn how to read. And of course, we monitor progress along the way to make sure that what we're doing is working. So I just want to give you a small example about what our need looks like for this year and in coming years. So looking back at our data, now we often hear the data that's related to state testing, and that starts at the end of grade 3. But nobody ever hears what happens, in K, 1, 2, and most of grade 3. And there's just a lot of intense work. So we use curriculum-based assessments. So we use our own assessments to kind of give us a little checkpoint, a temperature check along the way to say who needs help and to be sure that nobody's falling behind. In the 2018 and 2019 school year, it was a very typical school year. By the end of that year, in kindergarten through grade 3, we had about 80% of our kids who were reading on level and 20% of our students who were not. Now, those 20% of students we had identified, we've been offering them intervention, and that's a very typical percentage for who needs help and who's on track. Looking at our data from this year, which is the year after COVID, and we are nearly at year's end, from the data we have thus far, what we're looking at is about 68% of our students who are reading on or above grade level, and about 32% who are not. So in a typical year, we have about 1/5 of our students who are needing intervention. And after this COVID year, we have about 1/3 of our students who are needing intervention. Now those are big shoes to fill. And at some point, if you want to use the analogy of maybe a busy restaurant, if we are level funded and we have our same staff that we always have, and we are doing the wonderful things that we always do, we are able to serve, let's say if our restaurant was at full capacity. But all of a sudden, if there are 100 hungry people who are lined up at the door and they need food now, you can imagine that our service is going to be a little bit less effective. We might have to decrease, the intensity of our services, or we might have larger group sizes, or we might even have to decrease the frequency using our current staff. And if we do that, we decrease our effectiveness. And we're actually just really always running against the clock, right? That grade 3 benchmark is always in our minds. So that COVID money gives us the opportunity to not only offer quality service, but to potentially offer a little bit extra. And I can see how some people might think, well, why do you need that? At the elementary school especially, we've been in school 4 days in person since November. So somebody might say, well, what's been going on over there? Why can't you do this? That option has been there, but there have definitely been students who just haven't had the opportunity to take full advantage of that option. As an example, I had one student whose family member contracted COVID over February vacation. And because of quarantine guidelines and because of, subsequent family members who were then infected, he wasn't able to come back to school until the end of March. So that's a month and a half of instruction. Now, of course, he participated in online learning, and of course, we gave him as much as we could virtually. But honestly, he's 7 years old. And kids learn better when they have the opportunities to be in school full time. So for as much effort and, as quality of our intervention as we've been offering, some students just need more. We've always had an all hands on deck approach, and we always will. But at this point, after this COVID year, we simply might need more hands. We might need more support. And that was exactly the intention of those COVID funds. So if my child was one of those children who was deeply affected by that COVID year, I would want him to have as much possible support. That might look like an after-school program. That might look like an instructional assistant. That might look like another interventionist. And I would want that to be available to him. And as a taxpayer, I am totally willing to forego the modest decrease in my tax rate in order to fully fund our schools and give our kids what they need after this year. And if this is just happening in the area of elementary literacy, you can imagine what's happening in math. You can imagine the needs that are increasing for our social services. And that's not just at the elementary school, that's at the middle school and the high school. So that funding isn't meant to supplant what we're already doing with our programs and services. We really need it to supplement so that we can give our kids the extra that they need, because this year was anything but business as usual. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Jones.
Paul Jones, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, go right ahead.
All right. So thank you, Mr. President, members of the Town Council. My name is Paul Jones. I live at 9 Oak Lawn Road, and I am a member of the school committee. I think Mr. Lombardi and Mrs. Mayo summed up things very well. So I don't want to take up too much time. I had just been thinking about what Mr. Azofsky had to say last week and how much it resonated with me, and how he had spoken about, well, he was warning us about the dangers of moving backward. And I think that this past year has been devastating to so many people on professional and personal levels. And it's really driven home for me the importance of long-term planning and the power of working together. And in North Smithfield, I think those virtues have been particularly embodied by our school department. Let me explain my perspective on that, because when COVID started shutting the world down, Rhode Island school districts were granted a very short window of time to figure out how to pivot their entire student body to online learning. Now, with everything that happened, it kind of feels like 2020 was 10 years ago, right? But it was only 15 months ago that our district was trying to roll out a successful distance learning program to our entire student population. Now, thankfully, our district is led by and filled with people who are forward thinking and who have already been developing the means to incorporate technology into our students' everyday learning. Now, that means that in North Smithfield, the transition to distance learning was made easier. Not easy, but easier, thanks to the creative district team who had planned for the future before it got here and was able to proactively give our students a leg up weeks and months before other districts got their act together. I mean, this time last year, we were celebrating the graduating class of 2020 with the drive-in ceremony, which had received statewide coverage for its thoughtful design, which had allowed students to celebrate with some modicum of normalcy when so many other districts were just doing it virtually. Throughout the summer and all this past year, the school committees witnessed firsthand what our district team and our teachers, like Ms. Lafreniere, have done and what they've sacrificed to make the best of a really unthinkable year. So I am grateful to the budget committee for their work. I'm mindful of their sacrifices that they've made trying to develop this budget. I'm grateful to the administrator and to you folks on the council for what you do and all the time and effort that you spend on trying to outline the next year for the town. But I'm asking you that you likewise recognize the sacrifices that our school department has made in time and energy and trying to maintain that excellence which North Smithfield schools were defined by. Just recognition of those long days and nights and weekends and holidays that our teachers have spent trying to help students navigate a distance learning system that they too were trying to master at the same time. And just please recognize that the distance learning was not easy for the teachers, nor was it for the students. Recognize that when the school buildings were closed, our maintenance teams were working tirelessly to prepare the buildings for eventual reopening to try and minimize risk of infection. And recognize that the school district never gave up on our students or our town. They just kept trying to do what it is they do best day in and day out, which is give our students the absolute best chance to succeed. A maintenance of budget effort does feel like we're going backwards. And as a town, I think that we should be looking to invest in our future. Absolutely the school department. Yes, the roads. How else can we work together to make our town stronger? So just recognize the opportunity that you have here. Recognize that you hold the power to propel us forward or hold us back. But I have faith in you folks. I have faith in the council. I have faith in the administrator. And I recognize that this is an amazing school department and think that I hope that you folks do the right thing is what I'm asking you for, because I think we should be praising our teachers for what they've done, our students for what they've overcome, and help future students build on some momentum. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. CJ, do we have anybody else that wants to speak?
I don't see any raised hands, Mr. President.
If there's anybody else out there that wants to speak? No.
Right?
What's that?
A, right?
Amy? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, you're up.
thank you. Amy Wright, 91 North Main Street. As I'm here as a resident as well as an educator. And first and foremost, I absolutely agree with everything that Tracy had to say. As a math specialist at the middle school, I see on a daily basis the real difference that our systems and structures of support make for our students. But these are extraordinary times, and we must take added steps in order to address the very real needs of our students. Remember that schools are no longer just responsible for educating our students. We are essential components to so many aspects of our students' lives. We help to ensure their social emotional well-being, along with their academic achievement. And we cannot continue to have business as usual and address the growing needs as a result of this last year's pandemic. If we use these ESSA funds to, in large part, continue the great work that we are already doing, then we are ignoring the additional steps that we need to take to address the new needs that we have in front of us. And I'm asking you as the town council to trust the experts that we have. We have elected officials on our school committee that have worked exceedingly hard to bring you a really quality product. That is something they put a lot of work and effort into with our school's administration. And I know anyone who remembers not too long ago where we had a very volatile relationship between the school committee and the town council is thankful for the work that you all have done to have a responsible relationship between each other where you're building transparency and working collaboratively together. And I would just ask that you would respect their expert opinion that they're bringing to the table, that they've really put a lot of time and energy and thought into what they're bringing you. And they're telling you what we need in order to meet the needs of our students. And I think that we must take that request to heart. So I appreciate your time and efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to be heard? Okay, we don't have anybody raising their hand, but I mean, this is a public hearing and this is your chance. So if there's anybody out there that would like to speak, please let us know somehow, either hit the raise your hand function or literally raise your hand in front of the camera. Or just unmute yourself and speak up. Nobody?
Still nobody, Mr. President.
It's like a record. Okay, last chance. Nobody else wants to be heard? After hearing everybody speak, does anybody on the council have any questions for the administration or the school committee that's here tonight?
First of all, as a former educator, I agree with everything you said tonight. As a parent and a grandparent, I've gone through, because not everybody's parents were at home. Many caregivers spent long hours away from home or were called from home again. I questioned, was I to be the teacher or the grandparent? During these times, I thought that our children's mental well-being was important. I thank the teachers, because the kids, let's face it, try to pull everything they could. You look, well, one was one here, you had 4 kids, God bless you. I had 2 and I had to take small rides. We have to work with you. This isn't going to be done overnight. And because I think I have both sides to pull from, family that were out every day and some of the nights, and how it affected, I saw a great change in my grandchildren. You have my support. It is the only way I feel I could. I thank Amy and the other teachers because, you know, I question with my daughter Catherine, what she had to do and what they had to do, still having their own families. I'm very proud of what they've accomplished, and you all know, if I wasn't in agreement, you would know it. But I think it's wonderful, and I salute every single one, staff from janitorial to administration. I really think you worked as a team, and that's why I think we've done as well as we've done. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Coco?
Yes, with the school being open this year and having Mondays being fully distance learning, is it a fair assumption that it'll be open 5 days next year? Yes, okay. I as well as what Claire said, having 4 kids in the school system, one of which graduated last year, not only was it a struggle as a parent, but a tremendous struggle to the school itself. I personally am not a proponent on any type of level funding. I think that if, as it was stated, if the surplus is used in a way that's going to improve the school and give back, I think, again, we'd be going backwards if we did anything other than that.
Anyone else?
Mr. President?
You know what strikes me, and this, 2 years ago when I was on the council, this also got my attention, was we hear about things for the first time during the budget season. We hear about what Mr. Lombardi was saying for the first time. We hear about what these teachers were saying for the first time. We should be more in contact. We should be working more together, okay? The council should be working more together with the school committee, with the administration. So we're not hearing about things for the first time at budget time, at crunch time. I would like to see maybe a couple of members, 2 members of the council, meet with a couple of members of the school committee, the administration, maybe a few teachers, maybe quarterly. All right, so we're not so surprised when you come up to us and say we need 3%. So instead of saying, oh my God, they need 3%, we'd be able to say, well, this is why they need 3%. I think we should be working more together because your goals should be we should be able to help you with your goals. That doesn't mean we give you carte blanche. Doesn't mean we give the schools carte blanche, but we have a better understanding of where each other's coming from. We just meet quarterly, and then we can go back to our boards, whoever it is, and explain to them what the situation is right now with the schools. Can I get you to commit to that, Mr. Lombardi, that we would, Nevada? I'd like to see, just quarterly, get together, we hear what, you tell us what's going on. So it's not, we're not learning about it for the first time during the budget committee, budget hearing, I'm sorry. Because like Amy said, there was a time when there was a lot of battling going on between the town council and the school committee, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Shouldn't be that way.
Yes.
Tom Kravitz.
Mr. Kravitz?
Yes, John, can you hear me?
Hold on a minute. Mr. Kravitz?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Hold on a minute, we're getting the volume going.
Tom, if we can't hear you, I'll take it, but. Tom?
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring a couple things to the council's attention that I'll be actually submitting, one of which I already put forth through the clerk's office for, I think, the 21st. And that is we should consider maybe some matching funds to match some of the COVID money that's coming down through Congress. And the big projects we have for that is the Comstock water tank rehabilitation. We did an RFQ process. The administration met, and I'm going to recommend the company. And again, I sent this all to the clerk. But we're looking at potentially we have to phase that process. We want to do comprehensive improvements to the water system. The water tank is the most important thing, but we also have to do some things to the pumping stations and various other lines, water lines that Russ is looking at. But a worst case scenario is about $200,000 to $300,000 of match that we may get that money back. So that's the good news there, but it's just something to consider. The other thing I wanted to mention is we just opened up bids last week for the leaking cistern up on Elizabeth Avenue. And the low bid for that project was $120,000. And so that's another number that I wanted to bring to your attention for the next regular council meeting. Again, I think the 21st. So just bringing that up to you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, both the issues that Tom Quinn brought up, One is public safety. The cistern is needed a 10,000 gallon underwater tank for fire suppression. It's been leaking for years. It won't hold the charge. It won't hold the water. The other piece of cost is the Comstock water tank, which Rhode Island Health Department because it has to be fixed. So you'll see it at a future meeting.
Thank you. Okay, we'll give one more shout out. If anybody out there wants to be heard. CJ, nobody?
No, sir.
Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna not close the public hearing, but I'm gonna continue it just in case, so we can have the option to open it up again at a future meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to a date certain. What's the next?
20, well, the 21st is the
That's
next
right.
meeting, but the 28th is the.
The 28th. Okay. All right, so we'll, what do you think? Let's say it.
really want to do that?
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to, I'm just leaving us the option. I'm not saying it's gonna, we're gonna open up a public hearing here, but we have the option, that's all.
What date though?
And the 28th,
I'd be against that.
okay?
I have a public hearing and take input on the budget. We're deciding the budget that night. Maybe that's disingenuous to those people that are gonna make remarks. We have 2 weeks from today to do our homework on this budget. That was the point of scheduling a special meeting for the public hearing. Continuing it, so that we would have all the information we need, to give the administration and all of us at least a week to get more information, so that we can have a week. Can't have a public hearing the same night as the budget. That's disingenuous in my mind.
Yeah, it's a good point, but once again, I said that we didn't have to open it, but the option was there for us to open. We could start with the next meeting, just make it to the next meeting, and if we want to continue at that time, we can. So that'll be not the 28th, that'll be the,
That's when I set the budget.
no, I'm not talking, no, the week before,
It would be the 21st.
21st.
We're continuing to the 21st, but not any further than that. We need time to get answers and to look at things. And right now, if you look at the budget, there's a whole new chart of accounts that's been detailed. So it's really tough to look at last year's budget, this year's budget, and get it doesn't line up right. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've gone through it with the school department in the past, it happens.
Well, like I said, it's just an option, we're leaving our options open.
We need time, it's been in the paper, we've acted, we posted it and everything, and either they're gonna wanna speak about it or they're not. And we give them the opportunity to, and so we can do.
And that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna give them the opportunity. So that's a motion to continue the public hearing until the 21st. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Okay, folks, thank you very much. We have one more agenda item, but you don't have to, yeah, we're gonna take a short recess while everybody in the room can clear out or whatever you want to do. Are we ready to continue, CJ?
That's it.
Okay, we're back. And we're moving on to the last agenda item, discussion by council, vote on other action on Atlas PyroVision Entertainment Group for the fireworks event on July 10th, 2021. If you look here, we have the contract for the fireworks. There's a deposit of $2,500. Most of this money that you see for the total amount of $12,500 will be privately funded, but there is a commitment by the town to assist with the funding of the fireworks. So I will entertain a motion to authorize the administrative signature on this contract. Also to authorize the town to pay the deposit of $2,500.
Second?
All right, I'll make that motion then.
Okay,
Okay,
I second that
so
one.
that's a motion. Wait, two motions. Thank you. We have a second. Is there any discussion on this? Anybody have any questions?
They could supply their insurance liability, maybe the town is the.
Exactly, yeah, and they have all the, I was just informed by the fire marshal that all the paperwork has been submitted, and that everything that they, is necessary, all the necessary paperwork is in order, and the fire department is ready to go on this.
No issue with the date.
No issue at all with the date unless it rains, so there's an issue.
No, I mean, the date is on it.
No,
They said April 23rd, obviously, passing the 23rd.
July 10th, yep. And then the postponed date will be July 11th. Anything else? I will add to this that there is going to be a food truck event prior to the fireworks, 2 hours prior, as well as a DJ for people that arrive early. So we have a motion and a second, and a roll call on this, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes, thank you. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So make the motion. Second.
All in favor?